The day was October 11th, 1969. It was just another ordinary day for the people tuning in to watch American Bandstand. This was a show that existed for 37 years, between 1952 and 1989, and was in many ways similar to other iconic programs like Britain's Top of the Pops. In one particular segment of the show, host Dick Clark would present the audiences, in the studio and at home watching, the top 10 hits of the week. Like usual, the lineup is as star-studded as can be, with icons like Elvis Presley and Marvin Gaye making their appearance on the list. However, they are not the focus of this video, because something much more bizarre was about to happen. For what was now the fourth week in a row, a new band with the same hit single was number one of the list. That band was The Archies, and this is the story of their band members. At least that's what I would say normally, but like I said, this band was stranger than normal, and that is because the band members did not exist. At least not in our plane of reality. You see, The Archies were a fictional band, made to promote another venture, a comic book series. So join me as we explore the story of how this was made possible, and of the people who are behind Sugar Sugar. The Archies band was originally conceived in 1968. However, our story starts much earlier, in the war-torn year of 1939, when a small comic book company was formed, named MLJ Magazine, with its name being derived from the founders' first names. Its first comic was published in September of 1939. However, it was only by the 22nd comic, published in December of 1941, that a few familiar characters were introduced. Betty Cooper, Jughead Jones, and most importantly, Archibald Archie Andrews. It didn't take long for the comics centering on Archie and his friends to become the best-selling publications on MLJ. As a matter of fact, Archie became such an important part of MLJ that by 1946 it rebranded to Archie Comic Publications. The success and popularity of the Archies would only increase in the following years, and then 20 years later, in 1966, it happened. Don Kirshner, a music executive, was contacted and tasked with providing music for an upcoming TV show. And so he assembled a cast of 4 musicians for a fictional band. The show, which had the same title as the band, was a massive success. Its name was The Monkees. Wait, wasn't this video on the Archies? Well, turns out that the world is a very small place, because Don Kirshner was the person responsible for both fictional bands, albeit not at the same time. You see, there was a key difference between the two groups, and that was how much control Kirshner had over the whole thing. The members of the Monkees were not tasked with the creation of their songs, only being asked to sing on them, with their musical ideas being actively ignored by Kirshner. This created a rift between him and the band members, especially guitarist Michael Nesmith, who in January of 1967, close to the release of their second LP, having had enough with the lack of creative freedom, pulled the rug on Kirshner and the entire Monkees press team by writing the following in an article for the newspaper Saturday Evening Post. "The music has nothing to do with us. It was totally dishonest. Do you know how debilitating it is to sit up and have to duplicate someone else's records? That's really what we were doing. Maybe we were manufactured and put on the air strictly with a lot of hoopla. Tell the world we're synthetic, because damn it, we are. Tell them the Monkees were wholly man-made overnight, that millions of dollars have been poured into this thing. Tell the world that we don't record our own music. But that's us they see on television. The show is really part of us. They're not seeing something invalid." This started a downward spiral that culminated in the firing of Kirshner for attempting to issue the Neil Diamond penned single A Little Bit Me, A Little Bit You, with She Hangs Out as a B-side without their consent. The band withdrew the single and replaced She Hangs Out with the Neesmith composition The Girl I Knew Somewhere. With Kirshner in the rear view, the Monkees were free to express themselves more as musicians and songwriters. Kirshner did not want a repeat of the problems that come with dealing with real people, even if they are a part of a fictional band. And that's one of the reasons why he said yes to the Archies, since they were a fictional band with fictional members. And so he, in 1968, assembled a cast of session musicians and songwriters. These people were the ones responsible for the success of the group. Among them, you had singer Ron Dante, who at the same time was also the singer for the pop group The Cufflinks, and singer-songwriter Tony Wine, who would later collaborate on Willie Nelson's album Always on My Mind. But the most amount of credit must be given to two songwriters, Jeff Barry and Andy Kim. Jeff Barry was one of the main pop songwriters of the 60s, having, for example, produced the Monkees' smash hit I'm a Believer, whilst Andy Kim was more of an up-and-coming musician, and would go on to have two #1 singles under his own name in 1969 and 1974. But before that, in late 1968 and early 1969, they were tasked with working on a whole album, the record Everything's Archie. They were not the only two songwriters on the record. Two other men named Mark Barkan and Richie Adams had been hired alongside them. As a matter of fact, Everything's Archie was already the second LP to be released under the Archies moniker, and all songwriters listed previously apart from Kim were responsible for the songs of the record. So why am I saying that these two were the keys to the success of the Archies experiment? Well, to put it simply, they were the ones that wrote Sugar Sugar. That's not to say that the Archies project did not have any successful songs before Sugar Sugar. The hilariously titled Bang Shangalang off their debut record reached number 22 in the Billboard Hot 100. But Sugar Sugar was something else. Being released in May of 1969 and re-released in July of that same year, it took a few months to gain traction. This was mostly due to the fact that, according to a great deal of people involved, radio stations didn't want to play the song. As Andy Kim put it in an interview with Radio Kingston, nobody wanted to play it because it was a comic book. It was the Archies. It was the year of Woodstock, we were going to the moon, and there were more important songs to be sung than this song. But you simply can't put down a song as catchy as Sugar Sugar. And towards the end of the summer of 1969, it started climbing up the charts, and by September 20th, it reached #1, staying at the top for 4 weeks. Also, I didn't know where else to fit this, but Sugar Sugar was only the second single of the record, with the first one being called Feeling So Good Scooby-Doo. And so I thought, wait, did the Archies influence the name of Scooby-Doo? And I started researching the topic immediately, finding this article by MeTV, which definitely says so. But I'm always suspicious of these types of articles because, well, it's the internet. So I kept researching this, and I found that same question being asked on this blog, which mentions that Scooby-Doo was slang for clue. But then, I gained 2 brain cells, which, for me, is something hard to do sometimes, and searched for Scooby-Doo instead of this song. And I pretty easily discovered this interview with Fred Silverman.
Frank Sinatra comes on, and I hear him say, Scooby-Dooby-Doo. And it's at that point I said, yeah, that's it. We'll take the dog, we'll call it Scooby-Doo and move him up front, and it'll be the dog show.
So, did the Archies influence Scooby-Doo's name? Most likely not. And thus, I've wasted around, like, a minute and a half of your time in this absolutely useless tangent for you to gain absolutely nothing in return. I dedicate this one to you, at Young Nino 2017.
You're goddamn right.
So anyway, let's go back to the video. There is no denying that the main reason why the Archies exist is at least controversial. It was enabled by a guy wanting to have more power over a band in its creative endeavors. So in a sense, you can argue that there is a certain degree of plasticity to it. Just to make it clear, I'm not saying this because the band is entirely fictional. I mean, groups like Gorillaz have shown us that fictional characters aren't actual obstacles to creativity and can actually enhance it. What I'm saying is that a guy paid songwriters and musicians to fabricate catchy pop tunes without any inherent meaning, and he succeeded in his ploy. And there is no way that anyone can deny that. And so, you watching this video may just think, this means that this song has the same value as a plastic pop song written by a crew of ghostwriters for a star, with its only purpose being to sell. And you would be somewhat correct, apart from small details like the star not existing, so everyone knows that it wasn't the star that actually wrote the song, I guess. And I do agree that it is incredibly rewarding when there is depth to the lyrical content of the song, when there are intricacies and melodies, when it's not just to sell a song, but to tell a story. Or not even a story, but a sort of deeper meaning that the song possesses. I do appreciate that. But with all that being said, it's not a crime in and of itself to enjoy a catchy pop tune. And I really enjoy Sugar Sugar. Call it a guilty pleasure, call it what you will, but I just really enjoy it. I don't really think it's a guilty pleasure because I'm not sure that guilty pleasures should even exist. I mean, you enjoy what you enjoy. There's no need to put a label on it. And if you enjoy Sugar Sugar, great. If you don't, it's okay. And if you have trouble in enjoying Sugar Sugar because of the character of Don Kirshner, well, although he had control over the musical output, he wasn't the one that wrote Sugar Sugar, and he wasn't one of the people that performed Sugar Sugar. So even if you have trouble separating the art from the artist, you shouldn't have an issue with enjoying Sugar Sugar. Sugar Sugar ended up being the #1 song of 1969. So in spite of it being the year of Woodstock, and the year of the moon landing, and the year in which the Beatles announced to the world they would break up, this song ended up representing that year of 1969, not a song related to any of those other events. And although there are far more thematically important songs in this year, I do think it is fitting for this one to be #1, because I think that's representative of that period in the late 60s in the US, a period that to us nowadays is inseparable from love and from peace. In the midst of the Vietnam War, people at that time united against it and set out to create their own harmony through music. And when you do think of it this way, then you realize that a simple and awesome love song truly is the best representation of this era. And that's the video. If you want to help out this channel, then please click one of these videos, for it really does help with the algorithm when people watch more than one video in a row from a specific channel. If you don't, then it's cool, and I wish nothing more than a great day for you all. My name is Joe Fiki Fiki, and thank you for watching. Bye bye.